Hello people, this is Jon Speelman with a video version of my latest column, not nowadays an Agony column, just a column, number 158. And I'm just going to check before I do anything else that the recording has started, so you'll get a funny picture for one moment. And it has. Excellent. Right, so I've called this The Hacking of Steely Sprogs. And I said, a month ago I looked at some games by the world's top juniors, and after a diversion a fortnight ago when we looked at some endings, I looked at a pawn ending and a rook ending, then we're returning to them today. And when I hear things, I tend to link them to other things of the same scansion. So really I called it The Hacking of Steely Sprogs because I thought of the patter of tiny feet. And in two of the games, the move b2 to b4 was played somewhat unexpectedly. And so that's why I got that title. And so I've got three games today. Two of them actually are Blitz games. They're from the Lindores Abbey Blitz tournament after the FIDE Grand Swiss in Riga. Lindores Abbey is a whisky distillery in Fife in Scotland, which was reopened a few years ago, about 500 years after it had closed. It was a medieval distillery, in fact the first place in Scotland to distill whisky. And the new owner decided, I've lost his name for a minute, decided to reopen it, and then they found that in the manifest of the old abbey there was an ancient chess set. So he had a chess tournament which was won by Magnus Carlsen ahead of Ding Liren, 4-player double rounder. That was a couple of years ago. Then they had a couple of tournaments on chess.com, and now they had this lovely Blitz tournament. Blitz is a lovely way to burn off the energy after you've had a terribly serious tournament, as long as your hand's working. And there were some great games, and I've got two games, one by Kirill Shevchenko, who won the tournament, and one by Arjun Erigaisi, who's the Indian guy who led in the first half and started with an incredible 10.5 out of 11. So I've got a game each by them, and they're just very intuitive and very lovely. And then at the end, continuing with b4, I've got a game by Alireza Firouzja, who today, if things go well with him, will cross the 2800 barrier, because he's playing black against Alexander Grischuk today in the European Team Championship. If he happens to win as black, then he'll go over 2800, which is pretty amazing. Okay, let's get to the games then. And there are three of them, as we said. And we start with Shevchenko against Gelfand. And I just like this game. Shevchenko he lost twice to Caruana a round earlier, I think, and got 1 out of 2 against somebody the previous round. So he's probably a bit thinking this is not going very well, this tournament. And then he started playing, and he played really a rather marvellous game. I pointed out in the column that computers would not like this, that they'd harumph and they'd beep, and if they were old computers, of course they couldn't do it then, the old computers, there would have been lots of flashing lights and hysterics. But it's not important, it's a Blitz game, and the important thing is that your hand can play to a high standard and make some sort of sensible statement. Played knight c6, knight e7 is perfectly playable, which is a position. And knight d5 was played, and actually yesterday, as I'm doing this on Saturday, the day before the column comes out, Ravi Harrier, taking on d5 is really stupid. White probably gets the advantage. b4 given here is a good move by the great engines of West Hampstead. And a week after this game, Ravi Harrier his opponent played bishop d6 as who was it? Romanian guy, I think, was it? And his opponent got the advantage and he managed to draw in the end, just. Okay. Ravi, things went wrong for him, but he drew. He showed real character. He's been playing fantastically on bottom board for England. And here we are, g6 played by Gelfand, I think he'd taken 20 seconds to play knight d5. Now it took another 13 seconds and went b4. Well, the engines go, beep, 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 this is horrible, we don't like this, what are you doing? We're unhappy, but doesn't matter to Shevchenko, he plays his move. Of course he doesn't take the knight, because then he'd be a rook down for nothing. He gives a check. Engine says knight e7, c3 to block the bishop, castles. I wonder if you could go d6, I suppose you go bishop g7, so c3. And okay, the engine goes beep, 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 this is horrible, we do not believe you. And I can quite believe that it's right. I mean, essentially, you're a lot of material down here, and it's not going to go well if black plays well. I think if I ask Houdini, it says 2.5 pawns or something. Doesn't matter, it's a blitz game. Bishop a3, just refusing to take the knight because black's position would be too good. Queen a5, presumably he could have played knight takes pawn as well. Queen a1, knight f4. Again Houdini here rumps. Actually Houdini stops her rumping so much in this one. After a while it goes to -1, which basically means white's winning in a blitz game, I would say. So white's got a huge initiative. If it's a -1 and you're a rook down, then you're doing jolly well. Anyway, Queen b3, King g7, took the bishop, took the pawn. Could he have taken the knight? I suppose if he takes the knight, you recapture, he takes the bishop and you play bishop e6 and your pieces are coming out too fast. I suppose, I don't know. Knight takes d5, c4. He went knight e7, which is a mistake. Gelfand. He should have gone back to f6, bishop b2. Queen b4 is the machine's first thought, but then I thought rook e8 was a natural move. My feeling is that in this position white would play g4, it's just what you do. But unfortunately after this, well, the engine really isn't very happy. It goes beat, 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 this is awful. The knight is attacked, isn't it, which is a big problem. Black has the initiative. Very unfortunate that, you know, if you sacrifice large amounts of material, you at least want to have the initiative, and you don't. So this would have been good. After knight f6, there is a way to bail out, but I doubt very much whether he would have done it. He can do this, actually. If you go king e7, it leads to a draw, actually. I think knight e7, knight e5 is not a good idea. And that's a rather pretty perpetual check. And presumably nothing better. I haven't checked. But I don't believe there's going to be something better here. It just doesn't feel like it's likely. There's too much going on, I think. Okay. Knight d7, bishop b2 check. He played f6. If he plays king g8, bishop c3, queen takes pawn, queen b2, d5, take, d4 is the best you can do. And white's better, but the game could continue. White's clearly better, of course. He played f6. Gelfand's lost the plot a bit. If he takes this, then he's really going to get mated up a tree. The best thing to do is to go knight g5 here and now. Yeah, of course you could take the rook and you'd be winning, but this queen to there threatens mate, obviously. Knight to there, and now the vicious rook e1. And you just win. I mean, there's nothing to be done in this position at all. So, king g8, queen b2, queen b4. And white's completely winning. He's 2 pawns up with the 2 bishops. That's right, isn't it? 7 plays 5. Gelfand did well, actually, to make it even slightly a battle. But, you know, it wasn't. It would have had to go very, very wrong indeed for it to be remotely interesting. I mean, look at it. White's 2 pawns up and controls all the squares. What more do you want? Somebody said to me, This is a very grown-up position after the way they played to start with, and it is really, isn't it? It's a grown-up position where white is completely winning. And he actually took the knight, why not? And went there. And this is completely winning. You're going to take the d5 pawn or queen the c pawn. Black, there's also an h pawn, so black's got absolutely no chance, and he resigned. So I just thought this was a marvellous blitz game. I mean, I know, as I said, that computers would go beep, beep, and probably hold their, whatever computers hold when they're trying to comfort themselves. But I thought it was marvellous. Next game is Erigaisi's last game. Sorry, there's a Microsoft account problem. How very terrible. This is Erigaisi, started with 10.5 out of 11, lost his second game to Caruana, hit the buffers, lost his 2 games in the penultimate match to the winner, to Shevchenko, but then he beat, I think it's Korobov, here it is, Korobov 2-0 in the last round. And this was his last game of the tournament, and it must have left him with, it says 18, it's 9.2, the second of round 2. And with a very nice feeling, I think. So this is the Averbart variation. Yuri Avebart's still going strong, as far as I know. I mean, people could tell me. I hope he is. I know he's alive, anyway. He's going to be 100 on February the 20-something next year. So he's the world's oldest Grandmaster by a good distance. Let's hope, wish him, well, let's hope he does well. He's very, very fit. He used to swim every day, I think, at one point. Of course, very famous for being one of the world's top players in the 1950s, and also a great endgame expert. And here he is. Now, it's the Averbart system. The bishop on g5 isn't bad. If you hit it with h6, then after bishop b3, there'll be a tempo with queen d2. The main moves is c5 is the old move, and knight a6 is the more modern move. And your man plays f4 because he's in hack mode, clearly. This is all normal, apparently. Rook b8 I think is a bit slow. I think c5 is a move. If d5, knight d4 is not a very good idea, so you probably take. And it's not too bad for black, is it? It's just a position. Do your stuff. I mean, white feels plus equals to me. I don't know if the engine agrees. So rook d8, and Erigaisi absolutely didn't need a second invitation. He played e5. Guy went back. Engine says take here, preparing to play c5. And this is, for instance, is a catastrophe totale. Obviously you don't do that. So I should just put a question mark there. Hacking away, I mean, it's all hacking. Took a pawn, useful pawn, because it gives him a square, and played g4. Every time he had a chance to play a hacking move, he played it. I just love this guy. I think, he obviously had enough and he decided to go for it. That's a mistake, actually. You should go bishop b5. The thing is, if rook d1, take, you have this trick. You don't have knight f4 yet, but if h4, you have knight f4, threatening mate, queen f4, and I think you end up with sort of a reasonable position for black. Is that true? Let me just ask its Sublime Majesty. It says queen f4, gf4, bishop d7, bishop d7. I haven't done a body count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, but things on pre's. Equal. Equalish. Apparently. Alright, I'm not even really. Sorry, I'm going to do that. So, takes, and king h8's a bad mistake. Walking into the h-file, and the rest of the game is beautiful. b3, defending the pawn, push takes pawn takes pawn, exclam. Oh, he's losing anyway, whatever he does. And he had the opportunity, bishop takes knight would win, but he had the opportunity to play this. And the guy resigned, of course, because of knight takes, rook takes, knight takes pawn mate. What a lovely way to finish the tournament. And he was terribly impressive at the start, and I enjoyed it very much, this game. And last game is Alireza on the rampage. As we saw, he's gained 28.9 rating points in the Grand Swiss, followed by European teams. Playing top board above MVL. I'm not sure if I were the top player in the country, would I very, very much like an import to jump above me, but he's certainly justifying that. There's nothing MVL. I mean, he's a monster, isn't he? And, you know, I've been asking people what probability he becomes world champion. The way he's playing now, I'd say at least 50%. I think probably Magnus will beat Nepo in the match they're about to play. Partly matchcraft. I mean, their actual scores are... I think Nepo has a plus score in classical games. But we shall see. Okay. So this is... I just really wanted this for... I know nothing about Open Sicilians. I haven't played them for a million years. Well, you know, I have general chess knowledge of them. But I don't... They normally go f3 or f4, I think, but he went here, and g4. Obviously, he will have thunk about this. I assume b4 is not a good move. g5. So you can't play b4 because of pawn takes, pawn takes, pawn takes bishop. That's important. So he's got a position, knight to there, can't take this pawn because rook c1 causes a major incident, so he goes back. And he decides he can't do stuff on the king side, so he starts improving on the queen side. And it's this move that I think is rather fantastic. I think I'd be thinking about playing c4 as white, and I think I was just about okay, but he played the wonderful move b4. And I really don't know if I'd have thought of this. I mean, obviously you'd think of it if your king was somewhere on the other side of the board. And I suppose he thought, I can't play on the king side, I've got to play on the queen side. So maybe he thunk of it by elimination. Let us ask our Lord and Master whether it thinks of this move quickly. Does it think of it? Yeah, it does. What a hero. Okay. And he went there. And the guy took on b4, thinking he was going to take on b5, obviously. And probably thinking this is a load of crap. If you take on a4, then you play b5, queen b8, c4. And I said I would have conniptions about the long black diagonal, but Alireza wouldn't, I don't think. Okay, now a takes b4. I was just going to ask the engine. If you go b takes, if you go, now after a takes b4 is what I wanted to ask. Queen, a takes b5 is also playable. So a takes b5, rook takes c3, b6, I see, is also possible. This is also actually good for white. Good for white. I think he was pretty discombobulated by being attacked on the queen side. But he played queen c6, which is just a beautiful move. Queen takes, pawn takes pawn. Lovely trick. If the queen goes back, say to d7, you go check here, here, to there. Something like this is just winning very easily. It's just not going to be. Could you try queen g4 here? Queen g4. a6 it says, not rook takes bishop. It almost so rook e8. It's better. A6, D4, A7. Check. C1, D2, pawn equals queen. Okay, I hadn't calculated this. This would have been a bit more interesting. I don't know if you can go... I'd like to go pawn takes pawn, but then bishop g4, which is annoying, so I'm not quite sure. Actually, I'm just thinking what you'd actually do in a real game. He should have tried this, because it's a bit... I mean, okay, Alireza would of course have done it, but because what happened was he just ended up helpless on the queen side. That's to stop knight c6 more than anything else. And he resigned, because he's losing all his boys. Well, I think this is a marvellous game, and I mean, okay, I haven't analysed it in great detail. It's the fact he went b4 and a4 which I find exciting. And I just think, would I have thought of that when I was at my peak? I mean, I'm certainly not at my peak anymore, obviously. And I don't know. Hard to tell. I mean, I thought of all sorts of strange moves, but somehow jumping in front of your king feels pretty odd. But I guess, you know, by elimination you might reach there. Okay, so we've had some, whatever I called them, more hackery from steely sprogs. And they are terrifying, these children. They're not children, they're young people, obviously. They're not children, they're 18, 19, 20. I checked Alireza. He is still 18, I believe, God help us. I think yeah. No, he's 18, yeah, 18 on the 18th of June. And you just think, my God. Or I certainly think, my God. So he won't be 19 till next June, and I suppose he is the one, isn't he? People have always thought this is the guy with the talent. And now he's applying it to classical chess and beating up really rather strong players, making them look like they're, well, frankly, cannon fodder. Then you think, well, he probably will be. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this. By the time I meet you next, which will be on... when will it be? It'll be on Sunday the 5th of December, won't it? So in a fortnight. Does that sound right? Well, the 21st, the 35th of November is the 5th of December, indeed. Then the World Championship will be well underway. And maybe I'll see if I can find a quirky angle on the World Championship. Something that other people haven't been talking about. Otherwise, if you want me to continue with the Uber Sprogs, then suggest some games, please. Because I'd love to have help. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this. And I'm going to stop now. Up.